So I'm back in London just for a few days, and I didn't think I'd have time to meditate today. So when I was on the underground from London Heathrow, I decided to use that time to meditate. And if you haven't meditated much before, and you think that you need to sit in like a special spot or anything like that, you can literally meditate to the sound of the train, and just focus on that noise. And I'm surprised that I'm not crying or tears haven't come up, because when I was on the underground, if you don't know London, Heathrow on the Piccadilly line goes through Hammersmith and Barons Court. Barons Court was where I moved when I was 16, left home, and I went to the Royal Ballet School. And I had a really hard time. Like about a week in, I started getting bullied by the girls in the class, and particularly the girls I was sharing a room with. And then I was getting bullied as well by my teacher. So basically there wasn't a safe space, and I used to call my mum and ask to go home, and she'd be like, no, you'll be fine. Unfortunately, I wasn't fine, and I didn't know, but all these years later, I've had post-traumatic stress disorder, and that's why surviving in London has been so hard. It's been hard with a capital H. So now when I come back to it, having been in a little island of countryside and nature and no sirens and not so many people, obviously hardly any people, it's like my body is on hyper alert again. There's excitement. You know, I always say to survive a city like London, you have to have a few vices. So even if it's something innocent like sugar, and sugar's like cocaine for the brain anyway, it's not that innocent. Like even if you have a vice like coffee or sugar or working out too much or something, you kind of need a vice to survive. Or it might even be like me changing your hair 100 times. But you kind of need something because it's gritty. And if you're carrying around a lot of pain, yeah, it's tough. It's a tough one. For me, it's never been home. And coming back this time, I realized that it's familiar. I've lived here for 20 years, or so, 20 years. But yeah, it's not home. It's familiar, but it's not home. And I'm saying this with a smile because now I know that it's my past. I'm not here anymore. I'm creating a new life, and this isn't in it. And that is a relief. And yet, as I was flashing back to that 16-year-old self, I was thinking, wow, like if I was a parent to that 16-year-old self, I wouldn't have let myself stay there. I actually went to one of the staff and confided in her when I was at the school what was going on, and I literally felt like I was frozen like a deer in headlights whilst having to perform every day for Simon Cowell. That's what it felt like. And her response was, if you don't like it, you know where the exit is. For me, that's not what you say to a 16-year-old who's struggling. There's no comfort, there's no empowerment in any of that statement at all. It's basically just like deal or die, sink or swim. Maybe that's the harshness of reality in those kind of industries, but if that were me as a parent, I would say I don't want my daughter to be in that kind of industry where it's like no one gives a fuck about you or your well-being. No one gave a shit about mental health. No one gave a shit about emotional health. No one even gave a shit about your physical health. I mean, people's arms were dislocated there at school. It's just normal because a teacher pulled your arm too hard when he was trying to get you to do a move. I had a foot operation after my second year. All this stuff is normal there. I think it's horrific. And yeah, I've had years of post-traumatic stress disorder where I was being misdiagnosed, and I was misdiagnosed with bipolar and in and out of hospital until I eventually worked out that it was complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So as I meditated, all these feelings came up, and just grief for what I just went through, and how it could have been so easily dissolved if I had just left, if I had just got out of the city, if I'd have just realized that this environment is like me being a frog out of water. It's just not right for me at all. and now that I'm in nature on a small island, it's like, I just feel so much more me. I'm happy to be back here for coffee. I'm happy to be back here for shopping, hairdressers, this kind of thing. But other than that, no, I couldn't do it for more than a few days, if I'm honest. So that was a really fascinating meditation. And for me, the vibe of London is keep up, you're not enough, you're not enough, keep up. It's every message that you receive, whether it's through publicity in the underground or through a newspaper or a magazine, or even just the energy from people, is competition. Competition for who's going to be a star, who's going to get a job, who's got the most money, everything, competing, who's the most stylish person here. That's what I pick up on a little bit when I come back, because those things are not important in Gozo. And I just feel it from the people. And if you have an internal dialogue that thinks you're not enough, then living in the city is really tough. And I also realized that it's not really coming from within. It's not really me that cares. It's like I picked up around me that that's what matters and that's how I've got to behave. But it just doesn't ring true to me anymore at all. It's just not a peaceful way to live. I don't think humans should live with that much stress. To me, it's just not normal. So just meditated until eventually the feelings kind of dissolved, and then excitement grew a little bit. Or I saw a busker on the underground and his music was like Jimi Hendrix, and it was like, just drinking in his music, just trying to revive my soul of all those painful memories from the past. So if anything I'm talking about rings true for you, trauma, bullying, anything like that, feel free to leave a comment. It's really important that we have an open conversation about these things, because there's so much of it. I think trauma is rampant in our world. I mean, all our political leaders are severely traumatized individuals, and we're led by traumatized individuals who are leading a traumatized world. And if you listen to Gabor Mate, he talks a lot about this. There's a really cool interview with him with mine just went blank. Russell Brand. Really cool interview with him on Russell Brand's podcast, Under the Skin. And if you're wondering why I'm vlogging in a bath with my skin, it's because the Authenticity Challenge is always making a comment on the fact that we weren't born in clothes, that this is our most authentic self. We didn't come in clothes, and clothes to a certain extent is still a little bit of a costume. So I'm just, in a small way making an expression or making a comment on that, because we get so squeamish around seeing people naked. It's like, oh, it's naughty, So I don't think it's that naughty. I think it's just natural. And natural has weirdly become weird. But if you know me, and this is Suze, or The Adventures of Suze, if you followed that before, then you'll know that this has been the conversation throughout, and it shall continue. Yeah, so this is today's vlog.